Today I'm going to share with you the pre-trade checklist that made me a consistent trader. The purpose of a checklist is to make sure that when you're on the chart you make the right decisions. Now before I share with you my checklist, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. Now the checklist that I'm going to show you might seem big, but just know that think about it as your compass, as a framework that you use to guide you. Now I don't use a checklist because everything is in my head and it happens in a few seconds. In a few seconds I know if everything checks off the checklist or not, okay? So there's 3 checklists, okay? 3 checklists before you enter a trade. Remember, I'm showing you the checklist that made me a consistent trader. How to consistently take the right trades and not make mistakes, okay? So there's going to be 3 checklists. Number 1, the first checklist is the warm-up, okay? Before I explain, think of any profession. Think of a professional athlete. Think of a professional musician. Think of a professional dentist. Before they perform, they have to warm up. What makes you think that in trading you don't need to warm up? Do you warm up? Think about it. Or you're just in a hurry to take a trade. A professional athlete, before the game, they spend half an hour or even up to an hour warming up, going through the different things that they need to do to perform. A singer, a rapper, before they do a concert, they warm up. Vocals, they get in the zone. A dentist, they check their gear before they perform. So in trading, it's the same thing. So the first checklist that you need to check off is warm up. What does that mean? How do I warm up before I take a trade? First of all, this should be obvious, but you never know. Before you take a trade, you should already define your risk. You should already know how much money you're going to risk on a trade before you look at the trade. You cannot let the actual market, live market, influence the risk that you use, okay? So in the warm-up checklist, you already are going to know your risk. And also the second thing, so there's 3 things in this first checklist. Number 1 is to define your risk. Number 2 is to refresh your mental gallery of setups. What that means is that before I look at the chart, I close my eyes for like a minute and I just go over my pattern, what I expect to see if I want to take a trade. Before I look at the chart, in my mind, I already know what to expect, what I need to validate my setup, what I need to see for the trend. Before I look at the chart, I already know what I expect to see, okay? That's 2. Okay, number 3 of the warm-up, the last check off for this checklist, okay? You have to remind yourself. What I do, I have a sentence that I write and I read it before I look at the chart. Now it's in my mind automatically. The sentence is, remember that it shouldn't be hard to trade because you're just trading your plan, not the market. So you're not intimidated by the volatility. You don't care if you lose as long as you did what you were supposed to. It shouldn't be hard to trade because I am just trading my plan. I already know what I want to see. I am not confused or tricked by the market when it's time to look. This puts me in a very calm state before taking a trade because I already know I'm taking the pressure off me because it doesn't matter if I win or lose as long as I do what my plan says. So that makes it less, I'm not intimidated by like, okay, maybe it's going to be a messy action or I don't know what to expect. But it doesn't matter what to expect, what the market shows me, as long as I know what I need to do. So I tell this to myself before I look at the chart. That is the warm-up, the trader's warm-up. That's it. It takes a few minutes, okay? After that, it takes you like 30 seconds. You can warm up before you take a trade. So that's the first checklist, okay? The second checklist, so the first one is before you look at the chart, okay? The second checklist is when you're on the chart. This checklist is personal to you. This checklist has to be about your strategy. It tells you, okay, if your strategy tells you that, okay, I have to look at the trend on the daily time frame. So you in your checklist for your strategy, it's like, okay, trend identified on the daily time frame. If you did that, you check that off, okay? That's like the checklist of your strategy. And the pattern, do you see your pattern? The checklist to identify you and meet your setup. Like it's like a puzzle. You're trying to make the puzzle match, fit. So you have your requirements of entry. You make sure you see if what you see on the chart checks off all of your requirements, okay? That's the second checklist. It's to identify the setup when you're on the chart. Does the setup match my trading plan? So it's important to have a systematic trading plan. What does that mean? It means that when you look at the chart, you already know the things, the criteria, the requirements that you need to take a trade. Everything is like black and white. It's not up for interpretation, okay? It's very inambiguous, okay? It's not ambiguous. Your trading plan checklist has to be inambiguous. That means, example, trend on the daily, no other time frame. My pattern on the 4-hour time frame, no other pattern. My stop loss on like the 1-hour time frame, no other time frame. Okay, that's like a systematic checklist for your entry requirements. Okay, so that's the second checklist. The third one, probably the most important one. Okay, because this is the one where I could follow the first two checklists, but if I don't follow the third one, I can get tricked. This is where a lot of people can get tricked, okay? This third checklist might seem long, maybe confusing, but remember, it's just to guide you in the beginning. With time, you don't need a checklist, okay? It's like your compass. So this third checklist is after the first two. So after you identified your setup, okay? But it's before you take the trade. Okay? So to be clear, the first checklist is before you look at the chart. The second checklist is when you're on the chart. The third one, this checklist, is after the chart, before the trade. Okay? It's just some questions that you're going to ask yourself before you take this trade, okay? So I'm going to read you this checklist, okay? First of all, before you take the trade, you read this out to you. First of all, are you manipulating market information? If it's a yes, you don't take the trade. So it has to be a no. So you're not manipulating market information. If it's a no, you're going to move on to the second checkoff. Are you being biased about the direction? Did you try to impose the trend on the market? Okay? Ask yourself these questions before you take the trade. Maybe now it seems like a weird question, but in that moment, you will realize these questions are to help you bring awareness to your decision making and help you realize if you're making emotional or non-emotional decisions. Okay? This is what is going to make you a consistent, successful, profitable trader. The second question you ask, are you being biased about the direction? Okay? If it's a no, you move on to the third question. Would you take this trade in backtesting? If it's a yes, you move on to the next question. Are you being fooled or played by the market right now? Ask yourself that question before you take the trade. If it's a no, move on to this next question. Are you being desperate? If it's a no, move on to the next question. The last question. Is it you trading or your ego? If it's your ego, you don't take the trade. If it's you, then the trade has the green light. If you lose this trade, it doesn't matter because it passed all of your requirements, okay? That is the pre-trade checklist. That is my pre-trading checklist. This is what I use to help me be consistent. Now I don't need it. Now everything is in my mind, okay? So please drop a like if this helped you out, and so I could share with you guys more content, and good luck with your trading journey.